We just got the trailer for the Amazing Digital Circus Season 1, and in it we see something really interesting. It's Kinger with a shotgun, but he seems to be beating something to death, which honestly would make sense for how crazy his character is, but what was he really doing? Where was he and why was he doing it? And as well, what are the other adventures gonna be? For example, what is the Candy Canyon adventure gonna be, and what does it have to do with Kinger's shotgun? Well, let me answer that. The first question to answer is not what Kinger was doing, but where even was he? We can assume a few things right off the bat. If we look at the video of him using his shotgun, we can see that it's fully animated. So what I'm assuming is that it's episode 2 footage, because if it was episode 3 footage, then that means they would have to be done with episode 2. And if it really was done, then they would have released it already, because at the very end of the trailer, they said episodes will come out when they're ready. And so we know that episode 2 isn't finished, but most of it probably is. So if it's from episode 2, then this means that it has to be for the next episode's adventure, and I refuse to believe that Kinger is just gonna have a shotgun in some room, unless that's just how we just got a new trailer for episode 2, and with it 8 brand new characters that we have to learn about. So here's everything that I could find from both the trailer and Twitter about every single detail of all 8 new characters. The first new character that we got is this crocodile looking character. He's yellow and he has a sort of cowboy hat on, and we know that we're gonna meet him in episode 2 when the characters go on the Candy Canyon Kingdom adventure. We don't know his name yet, but we know he has sort of a deep and raspy voice, so he might be having a careless attitude like Jax. However, what makes me think the opposite is that Gooseworks later put out another photo of him where we see his full body, and honestly, it's a little disturbing. We can see that he's not really a type of alligator, he looks more like a gecko, but even as a fictional gecko, he has a sort of muscular build, and he seems to be an upright dude. Maybe he just has a raspy voice because he's Western, as you can kind of tell with the cowboy hat. The next character that we have is this blue character, and we actually met him first in the teaser that we got for episode 2, where we saw 4 characters reflected on the floor, and one of them was him. And we know that we're gonna meet him in the crazy he's gotten, but I doubt it, because we know that Kane controls the circus, so how would Kinger just be given a shotgun by Kane if it weren't for a specific purpose, or in this case adventure? So the scene that we see is not in episode 2's beginning where they're still at the tent, but in fact at an adventure that they were taking place in. And here's the interesting thing. We know that the next adventure is the Candy Canyon Kingdom adventure, so what could Kinger possibly be doing with a shotgun in a scary room inside of a bright pink world that literally has candy everywhere, trying to beat something to death? Well, I found an explanation, and it's that Kinger probably had to kill someone or something that was either their enemy or part of the adventure to where they needed to kill it to progress. And my theory is that this is later on in the episode inside of the castle, where he finds himself in a dark room and he has to kill whatever it is that's evil. But what will probably end up happening is that our circus members will wake up in episode 2 and go on their next adventure, almost as if it's a normal day, and then we'll be introduced to the next new character in the show. And we know that there's no way we don't get introduced to that new character because of the fact that we literally see 2 new characters with Candy Canyon Kingdom backgrounds who don't seem like they're from there, being fast food adventure, because he's probably going to be an NPC that Jax has to deal with, and we know he's not going to be a circus member or helper, because if you look at the background, you'll see a table and chair at the bottom right, which means he's not working at the desk, so he's probably there to annoy our circus members and give Kane some sort of weird fun. But here's the thing, we actually know what his name is, because Gooseworks has been tweeting out a lot, to the point where someone said OMG balls person, where he showed a screenshot of this person, and then Gooseworks said nobody is going to be ready for Orbs Man, which makes me think that this is his name. Now it could be that he's an NPC, so his name doesn't really mean much, but if he's an important character like he was literally literally teased, then this could mean that is his real name and it actually does have some importance to it. The next character that we see honestly makes me scared, and it's this sort of tape machine thing that we just have no idea what he's like. We can kind of see he has a structure where his eyes are the tapes and he has a little bit of a mouth with the indented metal, but the way that he sounded in the recording honestly scared me. Even though it was for a frame that we could actually hear him speaking, it was honestly terrifying, and part of me wants to believe that he's actually a darker part of the story where he'll explain some more lore to us, or maybe even warn us that Kane or Bung, the crocodile gecko character, and the blue mannequin that we saw last. Both of them could be new characters who spawned in, just like how Palmley did in the pilot episode. However, I'm betting that it's actually going to be the mannequin, because he seems like he's not really from there, and we've seen mannequins in the pilot episode when one of them was taking a bath and a bunch of them were around Kane. And what probably ended up happening to him is that he was spawning into the circus, but his body didn't fully load in as he was taking over a mannequin, which would then be going off of the mannequins are placeholders theory, and now he's just a part of the circus members but is missing his real avatar. And so once we're introduced to him, we'll then be brought on another adventure almost immediately, because if you remember from episode 1 when Palmley first joined, it took only 30 seconds for Jax to say to Kane that they should do an adventure for Palmley, and of course it took Kane a few minutes to show her around the circus first, but then Kane said that it's a good idea to get Palmley used to the circus with an adventure. And so with the new mannequin character joining the circus, the only logical thing to happen is that he'll be introduced to everyone as well as seeing around the circus, until later, once he's slightly used to the circus and everyone else, that's when Kane will set up their next adventure at the Candy Canyon Kingdom. Then what we'll see is we'll be introduced to the crocodile character, because we actually have two screenshots of him. One of them is the one we got from the actual trailer where we see a very close-up shot of him, but then another one is one where we got from Twitter from Gooseworks posting it, and we saw almost a full frame from the episode where he seemed to have been alone, which brings me to the conclusion that he was probably there waiting for the circus members as an NPC that Kane spawned in to lead them to completing their adventure. And once we're finally with these two new characters, that's when we'll meet our third new character, who is definitely an NPC, and it's the new candy monster with the candy corn teeth and chocolate sauce all over him. And it'll probably be as soon as the circus members start approaching the castle that the monster will then come out of the chocolate lake to defend the princess from any harm that the circus members might bring. And then from there, we don't know exactly what will happen, because the monster could end up being nice, or maybe he'll get killed, or what will probably happen is that they'll come up with some sort of clever solution to getting rid of him, and then they'll enter the castle, which is when we'll then be introduced to the new candy princess character, who will either be friendly or harmful to the circus members depending on how she is, which is then where the story splits. If you remember from the pilot episode, all of the characters were together and part of this same storyline when Palmley spawned in, but later it was cleverly written that Kinger and Gangle will separate from everyone else, who will then go meet Kaufmo. And so what will probably happen in episode 2 is that Kinger will somehow split off from everyone else and wander around the castle, but once he starts wandering around either by himself or just with less people to watch over him, that's when he's gonna do something weird and probably end up stumbling into a room with weapons, because no one is gonna willingly give Kinger a shotgun on his own. And of course, him being crazy, he'll take the shotgun, and in the room there might be a little candy monster or candy bug that he'll hit with it. And I'm assuming that Kinger's a good guy, because he wouldn't kill anything out of cruelty just because of the way that he behaved in the pilot episode, which means that whatever he killed was probably evil or trying to kill him. Or what I also just realized is that it could also be that he was trying to close a door. If you look at the bottom right of the screen, the way he hits the object and the way that it moves, it seems like it has to be on some sort of hinge, and it has a softer sort of pushback and isn't too rigid, and in the way he hits it, it's not limp enough to where it could be something living. So in my opinion, he probably did something and is trying to hide it. Maybe he broke something, is trying to hide it behind a door, and so he's trying to stuff it down by hitting it with the shotgun to get whatever door or hatch that is 100% closed. But then this brings up the question, if we're going on the Candy Canyon Kingdom adventure, then what about Jax with the fast food uniform? Is he also going to be a part of the same adventure? Because that scene is literally fully animated. There's no way that it's not part of episode 2. Well, in my opinion, I have no idea. Part of me thinks that maybe they actually are animating episodes out of order, because each shot we got of all 8 new characters are fully animated, and there's just no way that we meet 8 new characters all in one episode. And so, in my opinion, it's possible that the Jax in the fast food scene is from episode 3 or maybe even 4. Or it's also possible that this was fully